Very good crowd. We just got to keep some positive momentum. Carson Hocevar winning, I think, is positive momentum. We'll see where it goes. I'm very optimistic.
Denny Hamlin is calling out something at Talladega that NASCAR really doesn't want to hear right now, and the fans are split right down the middle on this one. So here's what went down. After Sunday's NASCAR Cup Series race at Talladega, the complaints started flying again. But this time, it wasn't really about fuel saving like usual. The bigger issue was something even more basic. Drivers just couldn't pass each other. The whole race turned into what people are calling a 2x2 parade. Cars stuck in pairs, lined up, and whoever had the better track position pretty much won. There weren't many real moves at the end. It was less about racing and more about just hanging on to your spot. And Denny Hamlin? He was not about to let this slide. He went on his own podcast, called Actions Detrimental, and broke the whole thing down. He didn't hold back either. His first big quote pretty much sums up the whole problem. He said, "The way the draft works and these cars are so draggy that it just lets you run 20% throttle and keep up with the pack." Now let's stop right there for a second. What he's saying is huge. The cars are so heavy with drag, which just means air resistance pushing back on them, that a driver behind another car barely has to press the gas pedal. They can roll along at 20% throttle and still keep up with the leader who's pushing it to the limit. That's not racing, that's coasting. And Hamlin knows this firsthand because he actually had a strong start at Talladega. He led some laps early on. Things were looking good. But then his whole day went sideways when he got hit with a costly speeding penalty on pit road. Once that happened, it was over. Because here's the thing. When you can't pull away from the pack, every tiny mistake costs you everything. You can't make up time on the track, so one penalty and you're toast. Hamlin kept going and explained the problem even deeper. He said, "We're running all out versus guys that are running half throttle because they can use our draft. They don't have to run that throttle." Again, the air that gets punched by this car is so massive and they're so draggy that all it takes is a little bit of a sniff and you can just run half throttle right behind someone that's running all out. That's part of the problem. Then the other part is you cannot pull out of line because the drag. Let that sink in for a minute. The leaders are giving it everything they've got, foot to the floor, while the guys behind them are basically chilling. They're saving fuel, saving their engines, saving everything, and then when it's time to make a move at the end, they've got way more left in the tank than the guys who were leading. That's not fair racing. That's just punishing the guys who actually want to lead. And the second part Hamlin mentioned is just as bad. Even if you wanted to break out of that long line of cars and try to pass somebody, you can't. The drag holds you back the second you swing out into the open air. So you're stuck. You're trapped in line. So what do teams do about it? Well, they've gotten smart. If you can't really pass anyone, then the best way to win is to save fuel and time everything just right at the end. That's why so many of these Superspeedway races have turned into these big fuel-saving contests. NASCAR did try to fix this by changing the stage lengths at Talladega, and it kind of helped. But honestly, it also made the race kind of boring at times. There were stretches where nothing was really happening. Hamlin pointed straight at this in his next quote. He said, "And that's why these races have become fuel mileage saving, is because you saw it in the last stage. Even when everyone wanted to go 100%, it's 2x2. There's nowhere to go." That's the part that should worry every NASCAR fan. Even in the final stage, when every single driver out there wants to go for it, when they're trying their hardest to make moves and win the race, they still can't. The cars just won't let them. 2 lanes, locked in, nowhere to go. And then Hamlin shared a story that really shows how bad it is. He was actually battling for the lucky dog spot. For people who don't know, the lucky dog is a free pass that gets the first car a lap down back onto the lead lap. So Hamlin was a lap down trying to get back in the race, and he just couldn't do it. He said, "Hell, I'm battling for the lucky dog. He's 1 row up. He's just 1 row in front of me, and it's just like I'll never get there." You're not going to get there. There's nothing you can do to go get that spot that's 25 feet in front of you. You can't do it because I tried going high, I tried going low, I tried going middle. There's just nowhere to go. You can't pull out of line. So you have to stay in this pocket of cars and just, well, I guess we just wait this thing out. 25 feet. That's it. That's how close he was to the car he needed to pass. And he tried everything. High line, low line, middle line, nothing worked. He was just stuck. One of the best drivers in NASCAR, sitting there, unable to gain a single car length. So how do teams handle a situation where passing is almost impossible? Hamlin laid that out too, he said. That's why the teams have switched their mentality to shortest time on pit road. We want to make sure we cycle to the front, because we know that's where we're going to finish as long as we don't wreck. The lack of ability to pull out of line in this car is what has caused fuel mileage racing to happen. That last line right there is the whole point. Teams aren't trying to win on the track anymore. They're trying to win in the pits. They're trying to win by being the most efficient. Because once you cycle out front during pit stops, you're basically going to stay there. As long as you don't crash, you're finishing where you cycle to. That's it. So now the big question is, will anything actually change? NASCAR has the preseason thunder coming up, which is the testing time before the season really kicks off again next year. That gives them a chance to mess with the cars and try to fix some of these problems. The hope is that they can figure out how to cut down the drag, give drivers a real way to pull out of line, and bring back actual passing on the superspeedways. Because right now, what Hamlin is saying is something a lot of fans have been feeling for a while. It's not even really racing anymore at these tracks. It's a chess game with race cars. And while strategy is cool, it's not why people tune in to watch superspeedway events. They tune in to see drivers go 3 wide, make daring moves, and battle it out at 200 miles per hour. Hamlin's words are sparking a lot of arguments. Some fans agree with him completely and want NASCAR to make changes right away. Others think he's just complaining because his race got ruined by that pit road penalty. But honestly, when one of the most experienced drivers in the sport sits down and explains the problem this clearly, it's pretty hard to ignore. He's not making it up. He literally couldn't pass a car that was 25 feet in front of him. That's a real problem. The bottom line is this. The drag on these current Cup cars is making superspeedway racing predictable. It's making it boring at times. And it's forcing teams to focus on pit strategy instead of actual on-track racing. Whether NASCAR listens to drivers like Hamlin and makes changes before next season, that's the big question hanging over the sport right now.